So the topic of my talk has changed. I think poster, I don't think any of you would have seen this on the poster. This is something that I just decided 2 days ago that I'll switch the topic of the talk, but the overall idea remains the same. So no matter what company you're working for, startup, corporate, small size, mid size, this is the question that your manager of managers, your CEO is thinking today. What can I build today due to the existence of LLMs that I couldn't have built earlier? And I mean, this is a multi-billion-dollar question. It's not a joke. I mean, it could even be a multi-trillion-dollar question, but I didn't want to overestimate it. So I will start somewhere, and I will start. Where should I point?
It's okay. I think it's good.
Can you just do the next slide for me? So this is the congressional hearing for Sundar Pichai. By the way, timer has not started. I'm not sure.
I will start.
Okay. Oops. This is a congressional hearing for Sundar Pichai a few years ago when Google was going through an antitrust suit. How many of you remember that time? Okay, wow, yeah, good number of people. So this is a time where I don't know what word I should use. The ignorance of the congressmen, the people who are running the US government, was the most visible. Like in this particular Q&A session between the Congress folks and Sundar Pichai, one of the persons asked this question: when I do a Google search, right, is there some human sitting behind and reading my chat and then answering that? I think no software engineer over here would not know the answer to this, right? But the fact that they ask this question means that they are quite unaware and ignorant. Can anybody answer in one line why it wouldn't be feasible to have one person sitting at the back and answering all the Google queries? Scalability, bunch of users asking questions, right? So the idea is that the number of people who are asking these questions, it's not possible to employ that many people by Google. Let's say the entire world today has 7 billion population. If 3.5 billion people, okay, 3.5 is a huge number, but let's say that 1 billion people are requesting an answer, and again, I'm not going into DAUs, MAUs, but let's say 1 billion people are asking question. The other 1 billion, you need 1 billion more people to actually answer that question. So that question in itself does not make any logical sense. But still that question was asked because that is probably because the Congress people did not understand how software works. But next slide please. So their understanding of this is that maybe we need to have a human being to actually answer that question. And ever since we started building computers, from day one, we say that Charles Babbage is the father of the computer, and whenever that started, it's basically we're trying to reduce the job of a human and making it being done by a machine, right? That's what we are trying to do. So building a computer is nothing but an attempt to model the human brain. That has been there from the very start. If you think about, let's take the next slide. So the most simple computer ever that was created as a simple on and off switch. So what is the real world example of turning on or turning off a light? Let's say I'm a king, right? Let's say 300 years ago, maybe electricity did not exist. I'm a king, I would ask my servant to light up the lamp and just I don't know how to call it. Just turn off the lamp, right? Let's say that it's a candle. Okay, a candle is an easier example. What is happening here?
No, that's okay.
Okay.
Very.
So, candle, like we are lighting up a candle or we are like removing the fire of the candle. That servant today, as of today, is replaced by a switch. So, I would argue that the most simple computer that was ever created was the light switch. And I don't really know who created it, like this debate around Thomas Edison, Nikola Tesla, I don't want to get into that. Let's move to the next slide. So then we realized that like a single on and off switch is basically a representation of what binary is. Like binary is 0 or 1. If we combine enough binaries together, we will be able to represent all the data in the world. And this is assuming that like all data can be represented discretely. So for example, if you take 4 bits, like most of us would know that 4 bits are enough to represent numbers between 0 to 15. And then we have things like 4-bit binary adder that would take 2 4-bit numbers and add them and give you the answer. So that's where we progress. Like we progress from 1 bit to 4 bits to 8 bits. Today we have 64-bit machines and maybe even 128-bit machines. Let's move to the next slide. And then like we also like extending the idea of adder, we created a subtractor, then we created a multiplicator, and then we created a divider. Like division itself was, okay, I'll not go into how division was created, but a simple machine like calculator has way too many moving parts. By moving parts I mean it doesn't really like physically move, but there's a chip inside. And that chip inside is what is causing all of this, like the binary addition subtraction of the numbers that are represented at the end of the day. Like if you notice every LCD, like even when you are writing 2, an LCD screen like this has actually 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Like 7 discrete, like I'm referring to this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. At the end of the day, these 7 bits are representing all the numbers from 0 to 9. A combination of these things, like you are creating a representation between, like Naveen sir was talking about, creating representations and creating representations back. A number is being represented in a binary somehow in the brain of the calculator, and then it is translated back into the visual form like you see over here. So this is like one more evolution of the idea of the computer. So now let's move on to the next part. And then comes our traditional CPU, like imagine Pentium 4 or even like Intel 8086. How many of you here know 8086? Oh wow, decent number of people. Yeah, so Intel 8086 is something that was taught to us at college, and like mostly like if you ignore all the dual core and all of that that came out later, our CPU was just supposed to be this, that there's a ALU is called as a arithmetic logic unit. Arithmetic logic unit is containing all those like adders, subtractors and all of that, the same thing that a computer would have. And then there's a control unit. Control unit basically says that like if a program is executing, like where the control flow is, roughly around that. I will not like, maybe I'm oversimplifying a bit, but that's how it is. So, and then there's a main memory, and like this diagram, like some people might know it as von Neumann architecture. Like have any of you heard of this term, von Neumann architecture? Yeah, so the idea of the von Neumann architecture is basically that there's a processing unit and then there's a memory, like the main memory, which is also called as a RAM. A RAM is a volatile storage. The word volatile means that as soon as you turn off a computer, everything that is in the RAM will immediately like vanish, which is why we have secondary storages like hard drives, and today we also have SSDs, because we want to store things beyond the life of turning on or turning off the computer. So that's the like I would argue that the ALU is the natural progression from the calculator, and then from there we are going to a CPU. So here we have covered like a single core CPU. Then this idea was expanded into like multi-core CPU. Today we have like, on our phones we have 16 core CPUs. It's an insane thing. Like it was just like 2007 when I got my first computer where I had Pentium 4. And it's just been 17 years and there's so much progress that has happened. Next slide please. So things like CPU are very good at executing deterministic algorithms, and which is where I was talking about the control unit. Deterministic algorithms are nothing but like everything that you're writing in your code today. It may not be as complex as writing the Dijkstra's algorithm. Dijkstra's algorithm, a lot of people might remember, it's about finding the single source shortest path in the graph. But most of us are writing very basic, what do you call it, backend APIs today, which are much more simpler than this, and more or less they are deterministic. Deterministic as in same input in, same output out, right? And like that's a very simple model of computing. Like I think I was only aware of this model up until 2014-15, and like let's move on to the next one. And that's where the whole like shitstorm started, where I learned that there's something called as statistical algorithms. Like statistics becomes about probability, like something could or couldn't happen, right? And I'm somebody like who got into computers because I did not like human beings, because human beings are indeterministic, but computers are deterministic. And as soon as you made computers also indeterministic, it blew the mind out of me, right? Okay. So now, like when we talk about statistical algorithms, one of the most basic algorithms that most of us would have heard of, like in the world of machine learning, is the naive Bayesian algorithm. And it's based on something that we have all read in class 12. Like, how many of you remember this formula from class 12? Yeah, okay, roughly 50% of the people. So, yeah, when I was studying for the JEE, this was a very important formula. I just didn't imagine that this will also be useful in computer science, rather than just qualifying for JEE, right? So this is a naive Bayesian algorithm. It's basically saying that on the basis of certain probabilities, you categorize something into certain categories, and that's what this is. And I will not go into a lot of it because like this is something I just put on the slide, and I have also not used this formula in years. And then like I will jump a lot, and there's a lot of their stuff in the middle. There were decision tree algorithms, there were SVM algorithms. Just skipping all of that and moving on to something called as word embeddings. How many of you have heard what word embeddings are? Yeah. So word embeddings were popular at least in my second, third year of college, 2015-16. But I didn't give it much attention because I thought that, okay, maybe I thought that the idea was stupid. But actually, like it turned out to be it's a very good idea. So what happens with word embeddings is that like every word, like let's say Germany is there, it has like a coordinate in the three-dimensional space. Like currently we are showing 3 dimensions here. So Germany has some coordinate, Berlin has some coordinate. Similarly, Italy has some coordinate, Rome has some coordinates. And if we imagine that this is not just a 3-dimensional space, this is an n-dimensional space, we can basically represent any word in this manner using some algorithms which honestly I am absolutely unaware of. Maybe I know 0.1% of it. But the idea is very simple, that these relations that are there, like Berlin is the capital of Germany, Rome is the capital of Italy, these two lines are parallel. And like this sort of becomes very useful when we are doing machine learning in the modern world. Somehow becomes very useful. Again, I will not go into details on how it is useful because I am also not very aware of it. But the natural step that came from here is that people learned that we can build language models. Like if you have a statement called the students opened there, if every word can be put in an embedding, like the has a, let's say, 100-dimension vector, students has a 100-dimension vector, opened has a 100-dimension vector, and so on. We can compute, okay, please go back. We can compute the probability of what is the next word going to be. And this is what a language model is. And like in 30 minutes, we have reached from like an on-off switch to a language model. So I'll just pause here for 2-3 minutes and take any questions. Any questions? No questions? Okay.
Okay, so I have a simple question. You can just describe what a model is. Of course, many people might know about this using AI and also, but if you can just, in a rudimentary way, you can just describe what a model usually means. Yeah. So.
A model, you mean? Like a model in general or a language model? Okay, so language model is nothing but like something that's predicting. something that is predicting the probability of the next word here. That is it. Like the students open their lunchbox could be one of them, right? Okay, they have not mentioned that. But the students opened their laptop is a probability. Or you could say, okay, if let's say the statement was the poor people opened there, maybe the probability of laptops there is lower, right? I mean, logically speaking, your brain knows that. And what we are trying to do is simulate our brain as a computer. Like that's what like deep neural nets is about. I intentionally skipped the part about deep neural nets, but we have modeled this in such a way that every word has a representation, a mathematical representation, and as soon as you say the poor students, the word poor makes the probability of laptop becoming much lower. It somehow happens in your brain, and that is what we are trying to simulate in our in the language model as well. Does that make sense, like as a concept? Okay. Any other questions? I'll pause for 2 more minutes just in case anybody has any questions.
How the probability score is calculated?
Not in the scope of this talk, because again I am also very unaware of this. I like to learn things at a surface level so that I can just apply them rather than like going very deep. I'm definitely not a language model creation expert. I'm more of a person that something exists in the world, I want to use it. And I was going to say this in another slide, and I will say it in this slide. That's all about how the LLM came to life, right? That's all about how we created LLMs. Now, the more important question is not how we created LLMs, because we don't ask ourselves every day how did Thomas Edison create electricity, or whoever did, right? Or how was the Pentium 4 Duo was created. Or we don't even ask why is the valuation of Nvidia so high in 3 years, right? How did they create such chips that AMD couldn't create? We don't ask these questions. We take it for granted. We just assume that Nvidia will be the one creating chips, and we are supposed to use that chip in order to make some amount of money. Like they are selling the shovels and we are buying the shovels and making money from it. Maybe compared to them, we are making little money. But the point that I am trying to put here is that often we don't think too much about how a tool was created. Like how fire was invented, we don't think too much about that. Like how this light is running, I don't think about it every day. But it's important that the light exists, the AC exists, and hence I am able to give this tech talk. So now let's talk about how LLM can be used in an application today. And like I'll take a very simple analogy that any one of us could be taking. Like most of us would be working in an environment where we are using a bunch of technologies like this Spark in the middle somewhere, this Cassandra somewhere, right? Is anyone here an expert at Cassandra? Anyone? I mean, I am also not sure. Spark is used for big data. You are an expert at Cassandra?
I know a few things.
Do you remember the entire code base of Cassandra?
I have not seen the code base.
Yeah, exactly. The point is that Naveen here has not seen the code base of Cassandra, but Naveen knows probably the trade-offs of using Cassandra over something like a DynamoDB, correct? That is all that is needed, right? And I would argue that LLMs are the same way. Like, we are using Spark here, right? Let's ask ourselves this question. Like, Spark didn't exist at some point, and maybe Hadoop existed. Maybe they used HD, whatever, Hadoop MapReduce to do the same things that Spark was doing earlier. But then people built Spark, and then people started using Spark. I'm very sure that 99.9% of data engineers who use Spark on an everyday basis will understand what Spark is, like internally. I have no idea which language it is written in, honestly. But I know that like few of my friends are data engineers and they use Spark on a daily basis. And that is all that matters. Same thing for Cassandra, same thing for Postgres, same thing for Redis. Like we should deal in like higher level abstractions whenever we can. We should know that a tool exists. These are its contracts to the outside world. Just say Redis ka contract hai, that you put a key in me and you, with some PTL you can put it, or you can put a key and like you can retrieve it whenever. And it's also volatile, it's not, in the traditional world, Redis was in memory only. Now they have also come up with something disk-based, but like the original use case of Redis was, it keeps things in memory because fetching things from a Postgres would be sort of slower than fetching it from Redis. And which language Redis is written as, honestly, I'm not aware. Similarly, if we consider this whole Twitter system design, this is like Twitter system design. To find this image, I searched on Google, any system design, and it gave me this, right? Now, maybe I would like to reduce, maybe I would like to replace this part with LLM. Maybe I would like to add some part here, this is an LLM. Every, the multi-billion-dollar question that we were talking about at the beginning of the slide is, which every executive and every manager of yours would be asking, is where I can put LLM in this entire system so that it multiplies the value of my product. That is what it is. That's basically what it is. And you answer that question, you make $1 billion. That is my claim, it's a huge claim. If I was able to figure it out, maybe I would not be here giving a talk. But that's what I think. If people figure out where the LLM is supposed to be put in the entire software engineering landscape, they will make a lot of money. And today we saw an example of people using Confluence AI, right? Confluence has sort of figured out that, let's say we put AI feature here, maybe it drives the adoption of that. Maybe they are charging extra money for that, I have no idea. If somebody from Devon can comment on that, whether that Confluence AI feature costs more money, or maybe it doesn't cost any money, they are just using it as a marketing feature to attract more users to Confluence. Maybe they are doing that. But that's the overall landscape. Every software engineering company that is existing today is trying to add AI features, LLM-based AI features. AI features, though, mostly everyone was having already. Netflix was having recommendation engines for the longest time. So was Facebook Newsfeed. Facebook Newsfeed was a pioneer, I think. I don't know if there was any algorithmic newsfeed before that. And Twitter for the longest time was a chronological feed, but they also decided that we'll make an algorithmic feed. So ML has been used for the longest time, and language models also existed for a long time. It is just the runaway success of ChatGPT that made them very, very popular. Late 2022, when ChatGPT came out, suddenly some very rich people took interest that this is something. Language models existed even before that. ChatGPT was just a very large language model, quote unquote. So now every company is trying to figure out how do we put LLM in this entire puzzle of software engineering so that we can make more money. And one of the stupidest and the simplest ways of doing it is prompt engineering. And I will take maybe I'm jumping a bit, but I will take this example. So this is a So where is this? Okay, so let's say I have a friend called Angel Priya, right? And I'm somebody who is very good at forgetting birthdays. And let's say this person's birthday is on 6th of July today, right? And this is the Google Calendar interface. I have taken this screenshot from Google Calendar just today morning. Now I know that this person's birthday is today, and next year also this birthday will be there. If I forget this birthday, this girl is going to shout at me, right? So what I do usually is open Google Calendar, choose this option like this, say doesn't repeat, right? Instead of this, I could click on here and I could say repeats yearly, right? Makes sense, right? Birthdays are supposed to be yearly unless it's 29th February, which is a huge exception. Okay. No. It's okay, I will manage, don't worry. So now, what do? I know that Google Calendar today is not smart enough to recognize that birthday means repeats yearly. Ideally, in an ideal world, birthday, if I write birthday here, this should automatically turn to yearly, right? Makes sense, right? How many of you disagree with that idea? Why do you disagree?
You cannot basically decide that by one word.
Okay. Maybe the entire statement matters, right?
It could be like birthday celebration, right? let's
Okay.
say a team, the development manager team wants to create the keyword,
Correct.
birthday celebration for a X guy.
Correct. So one word is not enough. The entire statement matters. Yeah, that's a very good argument. Maybe if I write Angel Priya's birthday celebration, that's a one-time thing. But if I write Angel Priya's birthday, that's a multi-year, X number of years I should think about that.
Google might actually know that her birthday is on that day because when she used.
Oh yeah.
But she will not. But Google. I mean, see, Google has a lot of data, but they don't want to give you, right?
We have representatives.
Yeah, that is fair. By the way.
So they can suggest that her birthday is coming up, so you can.
No. So okay, I will warn you here because in a country like India, date of birth is considered to be extremely sensitive information because it serves as a security question in a lot of places. Like if you forgot your banking password, technically speaking, you being friend of Angel Priya, if Angel Priya, you know her, like, huh?
There's a Facebook ID.
Of course. Like there's a very specific reason why this name was chosen. So the idea is that. That's it. Okay, let's focus. Let's focus. So the idea of this is that where was I? So Google probably knows that you have a friend called Angel Priya and her birthday is on 6th July. First of all, Google doesn't know she's your friend. But sometimes you can exchange emails with them. If you have exchange emails with them, if you say happy birthday to them today, 6th July, ideally Gmail should be able to suggest you next year that you forgot to wish Angel Priya this time. Yeah, exactly.
If Angel Priya is not accepted.
Yeah, exactly. But see, there are a lot of constraints. Like we can always keep debating, and constraints will keep coming there. But overall, you can say that, maybe I wished her on WhatsApp this year. Next year, I'm wishing her on Gmail. Next year, I'm wishing her on Snapchat because that's the coolest thing these days, right? But the idea being that Google probably knows that her birthday is on 6th July. But Google is not supposed to tell me if she doesn't want me to know her birthday. Because if she does, and like if Google does tell me her birthday, I can use it to hack her banking. Right? Yes or no? Yes or no? Technically speaking, like it's one attack vector, right? At the end of the day, you need two security questions. One of those could be like Google is causing Angel Priya's bank account to be more hackable by Mayank Rajani. That is what Google is doing, and Google will not like to do that. Google will come in the news the next day it happens. Like that's $1 trillion company, right? So, but like I am not a $1 trillion company. I am today maybe a $0 company, and hence I would like to build a feature like this. How can I do that? And for that I would take I thought of doing a direct live demo, but I thought that okay, maybe I'll just do a ChatGPT style chat in advance so that things don't break in production like they always do. So imagine that I have an application which is exactly like Google Calendar, right? And I have to add just one mini feature that detects whether the recurring frequency of that task is yearly, weekly or monthly, right? Or it could be some other frequency also. But the idea is that the user doesn't manually select it. And LLMs are a very good use case for this. Like LLMs can very easily figure this out. And the example of this is this. So there's a prompt that I'm giving. I will give you task with some details and you give me valid JSON for that task. Why am I asking for JSON? Because this prompt I have engineered. Like this is what prompt engineering is. I'm creating a prompt and feed it into some LLM here, ChatGPT, and my application in the background will be sending messages to this LLM. So my application in the background sent Angel Priya's birthday, right? Now the chat replied with, could you please provide the specific details for this, such as date and whether you would like to set notifications up for it. Now there are two options. See, one is I made a mistake. I shouldn't have done this. I should have said Angel Priya's birthday on 6th July. Over here I should have said on 6th July. This is a bug in the application. Like I was not thinking enough, which is why I said it. But when I build a real application, I will say in the Google, since I have this interface, in the backend I will have this string. And I will say on, like I will put this in quotes, Angel Priya's birthday quote unquote, on this particular date. And ideally the LLM should give me back an a JSON response, but it is also asking me like, would you like to set up any notifications for it? And I said yes to notifications for all tasks in the future. This was also a mistake. Like actually I should have said this in the very beginning. I should have said this in the beginning. I will give you tasks with some details and give me valid JSON. I would like to have notification for all the tasks. You just decide the recurring frequency. I'm not very good at prompt engineering, as you might see. This was my first attempt. Not like my first attempt, but today morning when I was creating these slides, then it was my first attempt at building this prompt. So I should have said this. I will give you tasks with some details and you give me valid JSON that, I should have said that it looks like this. See, my grammar is also very bad. That looks like this, and I should have said, I would like you to decide recurring frequency, and I would also give you the date along with the task. And I should have said Angel Priya's birthday on 6th July. Ideally, that should have returned me this. What it gave after 2 prompts, right? Recurring frequency yearly. See, I never said yearly, right? I literally never said ki birthday is yearly. And somebody was pointing out that the birthday celebration is not supposed to be yearly, it's supposed to be once, right? We could try this prompt, and again, like things might break in production, but I would take my guesses that if I use a good enough LLM, currently I'm using ChatGPT 3.5, which is the freest version of ChatGPT. I suspect that it should give me once, but I will not try it on the stage to prevent my humiliation. That is what it is supposed to be. And similarly, I said bi-weekly sprint for syncing up with interns. Again, I made a mistake. It asked me what is the start date. I should have said 9th July. Yeah, we both answered. Bi-weekly sprint for syncing up with interns starting 9th July. Ideally, I would have got this response. So, notice this. It gave me something that I had not even planned for. Interval 2. Recurring frequency weekly. Interval 2. Like it's saying that this should happen weekly, but it should skip maybe 1 week. Now I need to do enough prompt engineering, like this is a passive work that I am doing. I need to do enough prompt engineering so that I know all the possible responses that will come from this JSON, like from this whole LLM pipeline, prompt engineering pipeline that I am building. And maybe I need to put constraints also. Maybe I should have said, hey, don't use any other JSON fields apart from recurring frequency, start date, notification time, and interval. Maybe I should have added that to the prompt. And people write like huge prompts like this, 500 line prompts. But at the end of the day, that is the prompt that is needed once. Like you need to engineer that prompt once, and it will work for you for eternity, I would say, unless like you are making a feature change. So then I noticed that notification timer is always saying 9 PM. Previous one it was saying 9 PM. Because in the original one I had said 9 PM. It was not being creative enough. So I said, can you be more creative with the notification time? I could again have added it to the top prompt. But then I said, can you be more creative with the notification time? It gave me the 2 JSONs again. Ideally this step shouldn't have happened if my first prompt was amazing. And then like if I just do this, my Google Calendar app, like Mayank Rajani calendar app will become better than Google Calendar app right away, right? So I have unlocked an opportunity. I don't know how many $1 billion it is worth. Maybe it is not worth $1 billion, but maybe $100,000 worth just by doing prompt engineering. Like how difficult was it? Like it took me how many? Maybe 20 minutes to explain this to you guys. And that is what most executives today are looking for. How can you be creative with LLMs so that you can generate a huge amount of money? And that is why I have also left my job and I'm looking for that golden opportunity where like I would like to build a company and suddenly make a lot of money. So this is what prompt engineering is. This is the simplest way of using LLM. Then there are other ways as well. Then there is fine tuning of an LLM. So currently I was using ChatGPT, like GPT 3.5 model. I could also be using something like a self-hosted model, something like a Llama 3. Or I could be using something on the Azure side. Okay, I will not go into too much detail there. But imagine that, like there are two ways of using LLM. Either you use it like directly give it the prompt and it gives you the response. The other way is you fine tune it. Fine tune it is basically you give it some data, on the basis of that you tell nahi acha nahi hai, like this is not good, you should do this instead. And I personally also don't understand fine tuning that well. So this diagram should tell you whatever it is. I have never fine tuned an LLM in my life, but this is a thing that a lot of startups are doing. A lot of startups think that fine tuning an LLM for their use case and putting it as part of that puzzle that we talked about will generate a lot of money. They think that, so it might be true. It might also not be true. In a few years we may find out that this was a scam by Nvidia to sell GPUs to us, right? That could also happen. But the point remains is that like there are two very simple ways of making money from LLMs. One is prompt engineering, the second is fine tuning. The third is like just building an LLM. That is what the real OGs are doing, which is what Google, OpenAI, and Claude, these sort of companies, Mistral, like these companies are doing. But that is above my pay grade. I don't want to do that. And like the real OGs maybe here are Nvidia, who are selling GPUs to like that can be used to like A, train LLMs and B, run the LLMs. And one of the most influential ML people said this. I would give you 2 minutes to read it. Okay, so Yann LeCun is the chief scientist at Meta. Like he's the one of the most influential figures in AI. He said this, that he doesn't believe in the capability of LLMs too much. He once said on Twitter that LLMs are nothing but a parrot. A parrot is basically something that just repeats rather than coming up with any original thought. So congratulations to all of you here. Your job is not going away because LLMs are just a parrot. But yeah, your job might go away if a human being is really smart who uses LLM the right way. Then you should be very, very scared. And that is already happening, like with GitHub Copilot and Amazon Whisper and all of that. That is happening, which is why a lot of layoffs are happening. There are other reasons also for layoffs, but a lot of companies are scared to hire because they might not know how many engineers they might need in the future. Because like few engineers with very good LLM usage skills might cause a lot of layoffs. That's a sad situation to be in, but also it's an opportunity I feel where you could learn how to use LLM and make 10x more money than your peer. And 10x is a very small number in my opinion. Maybe you can make more money. And I already did this demo. And here I will take a pause here. I'll just take a quick pause and let you all ask any questions. Yeah, RAG is there. I would not, I initially did not go there. RAG is something that I think that it's becoming really popular now, where it's called retrieval augmented generation. It is nothing but search engine retrieval already existed, LLM already existed. People brought those two ideas together and called it RAG. I don't think that is a scope of this, it is not a scope of my talk at least. RAGs are an interesting concept in themselves. The last time I was here, somebody was talking about how to build a RAG using Azure AI. That is a topic in itself which is interesting, but it doesn't interest me personally very much. Does that answer your question?
Which we are not covering that, right? So there is one more question to ask. Right? How the probability things is going to be?
I don't know.
So when we have weight and bias, right? So the weight is one thing. It's going to calculate number of ones. It's going to give you the weight probability. That's you give kind of a concise prompt, which we have not done. So let's say it's like I love French. So what could be the risk when it's going to
Okay, so my job, and again, like we have different people, like there are 7 billion people in the world, we have different jobs. Some people's job could be understanding LLMs and how they work, and some people's job could be improving the LLMs. The question that you are asking here is more around how to improve an LLM. For that, you first need to understand what like how LLMs are deeply built. I understand it at a very surface level. I would rather use an LLM similar to, like, if I talk about Kafka, right? I don't understand like half of how Kafka works, maybe 10% of it. But I have used Kafka in 2 of my jobs, and I've been successful in building an application using it and making some money. So I would rather use LLM as a tool rather than going inside and saying keep weight and bias. Kya hota hai? It is not my job. It might be your job. It's fine. Like,
to answer him, like it depends upon weight and bias. So to answer your query, right? So you ask like, let's the prompts which you are using it, right? There is 3 types which you can do it, and RAG is the most popular. The reason is like, whatever the LLMs which you are going to try it, it's not going to train on the latest kind of a data. The data which is like maybe if the new versions are released, it might be on the huge corpus of the data, which is an open source kind of a data. And when you wanted to use a RAG, that's one. But the question he asked, right, the probability, it's depending upon when the LLMs got trained. How they're going to train is like the weight and bias with the deep learning. So let's say it's like, I love French, right? What could be the next outcome word is going to come in anybody's mind? The most popular word is going to be which one? So the model will know like what is the popular word, that number of the, whatever that kind of number which is I love French fries. The people knows, right? It's not like I love French flag is not the one. So that is way how this LLM is going to train. And when it goes to the, if you wanted to train, right? The train is depends upon the weight bias which you can retrain our model. When you do a fine tuning of the model, that's how it's going to happen, right? Even this prompts which is going to happen, right? That's a kind of like prompt engineering. There might be geo shot, single shot, and few shots of learning. Like so, it's like it's already have that like make me as an assistant for me. The one he is talking about is like make that OpenAI 3.5 is like it's like make him as assistant. Whenever some event has happened, he is asking the prompt, be my assistant to create a calendar for the notification. So it's depending upon the $100 million one, I like it because there's a new way is there like where you wanted to put that. That's very critical, like in a day-to-day life, where you wanted to use the chat GPT LLM capabilities. That's the one thing I can take it. But this depends upon like how you are going to use that. Like what either you go to fine tuning, hyperparameter fine tuning, or it's going to RAG. RAG is the easiest way of like doing it for me compared to do with the fine tuning because it's going to cost me. And when it goes to the prompting, I have to do more responsibly. I have to ask the AIs to stop it. And now futuristically, it's like agentic RAG. So anybody know agentic RAG?
Agent?
Agentic RAG.
No, we can talk about it.
Yeah. So agentic RAG is something is like today. People wanted to buy a phone. How they are going to buy a phone? Yeah. So let's say you made a decision. You wanted to buy an iPhone. So what is going to happen, right? Most of the people, the current problem which I seen it, right? They go and open Amazon, anything like they go there and they scroll, they spend time, they go talk about reviews, videos, comments, right? He spent 30 minutes of time. If my wife asked me to buy something, a simple piece of the car itself, I will take 30 minutes. Is it a waste of time for anybody if you wanted to buy a phone? How much time you are going to spend? If you are buying a 1 lakh phone, how much time you are going to spend? Okay, if you are married, then it will be like more than 1 day, there are going to be discussions, right? So how you are going to pay EMI and other things as well. But if I get it a kind of a solution, if I give it right, I make that one of the agent, I tell like I wanted to buy a phone, right? It's going to tell me, right, where, which store, how I can buy it, what could be the rating, right? It makes me to like, it's 5 minutes of my job, like I want to buy a phone, I know which store is going to give it, like I can place an order.
Okay, I will pause. I'll pause you here. Sorry, it took like 4-5 minutes away from my talk. So you can you can go give a talk on this maybe after this. But I will just warn you of one very small thing. If you are using an LLM to make such a personal decision like which phone to buy, think about which company is sponsoring that LLM. And sometimes the company that has the LLM, let's say OpenAI, could be bribed by something like a Samsung, which says that why don't you buy Samsung phone? You need to be very careful about that
Yes.
in future.
That's where like
And that is I mean, sorry. Go ahead.
that's where like if you say like LLMs, it's depends upon the open LLM. That's where I ask you like agentic RAG. It means like you have a capabilities, right? You build it. Like it's go to the open source. Like if somebody is buying a phone, how are they going to do? They'll go to the 91 mobile, and they see like that what is the ratings, reviews, even it, right? I keep it everything into the open source, which is the best for me. Like YouTube is the one source of information. I use that and I take a decision on top of it. But again, it depends upon me, right? It's not like we are not forcing them to purchase that one. It's a kind of like I have budget of 1 lakh rupees. Tell me the best phone to purchase it, and I give my features. So it's a thought which I have tried to. It's not only thought like which is only LLMs has to make our job simplified in a lesser time, right? Anything which you, either if you go to code assistant, you use any LLM, the main purpose of it like it's not going to create some kind of a new things. It's like solve or basic things, a solution what we are currently dealing with in a better way.
Okay, I'll pause you there, and I'm really sorry for not giving you more time because I have some more things to say. So the app that I'm building, and it's a very basic app as of now. I had got this inspiration from personal assistants. Like you might see in movies that executives have assistants, and some of you might see it in your orgs as well. Like especially trillion-dollar orgs, if you go and you look at the VP level folks, SVP level folks, they will have assistants. My thought was why shouldn't every single person have an assistant? The answer is obvious that people cannot pay money for it, right? You can hire somebody from a liberal arts college for 40-50K and keep them as an assistant, but not all of us can afford that. So rather I would build an AI app that acts as that, and you start somewhere. You do not build 100% features of what a personal assistant does. But what I thought was that Google Calendar feature that I just talked about is a decent feature to begin. It figures out the recurring frequency of a task by itself. That is the first feature that I built, and I didn't even build it by myself. Like 2 of my interns are building it, and I think the future vision for this product is I'm just putting it out there. Hey Elite, remind me to bring dhania the next time I'm close to a grocery store. Because I saw this problem growing up where my mom would ask my dad, anytime you're next to a grocery store, just bring dhania, and he would forget because men have that sort of memory, right? If I can build this feature, I think it will do a lot of good for the world. It might not make me any money, but it might do a lot of good for the world. The way to build this feature would be that I would store in JSON format that dhania, grocery store, and Google Maps APIs. I could use Google Maps APIs to say, okay, this is a grocery store, and every 10 seconds, 15 seconds, or 1 minute, I could poll from Android and say that, hey, am I close to a grocery store or not? And if that happens, I would send a notification. This is my dream feature. This is the feature that I'm asking my interns to build next. I don't know how useful it will be. I will figure out only after I build it and ask some of you to use it. So the tech stack that we're using for this is very simple. We are using AppWrite in the backend, which is a sort of a low-code thing, and Node.js. We are migrating to Node.js. Eventually, we want to get out of AppWrite. And for frontend, we are using React Native because currently we are building an Android app, and we also want to make it cross-platform. So in future, we'll go to iOS. And we are using a very simple, basic prompt from OpenAI, and we have a free API key that I got from a friend because he works very close to some very big folks in AI. And currently the team is only this much. I have 2 interns writing all the code, 2 ex-colleagues and friends as advisors who are advising on tech, and I'm personally gluing the team together. And here's my introduction. I'm currently jobless, trying to build these apps and thinking what will stick. In the past, I worked for Google and a couple of startups, and like I'm currently 29 years old, and I will start my own company soon as some ideas strikes. So if you want to use the Elite Aid app, you could scan this link. The link takes you to my social profiles. It doesn't take you to the Elite Aid page because there is no Elite Aid page on the internet. But soon there might be, as soon as we are able to make a Play Store launch. So this talk is not about Elite Aid. The talk is about the billion-dollar question that we were asking, multi-billion-dollar question that we were asking. What can I build today that couldn't have existed? We already answered it in two ways. One is that, like that birthday reminder, getting it yearly automatically. That couldn't have existed before LLMs. LLMs just, like maybe it could have, but okay. I would say it couldn't have. Like LLMs just made it very, very easy to build. And secondly, like that dhania example, right? Bring dhania when I'm next to a grocery store. Like LLM can help tell me whether DMart is a grocery store or not. So that is the way that LLMs could be used there. I have also not figured out exactly what we will do there. But maybe we'll build that feature and see if people like it. If people like it, they might be willing to pay money for it. They may not be willing to pay $1 billion, but maybe $1 a month. So that's roughly, like that's the end of my talk, and I will take any questions now. Yeah.
See, looking at your application regarding personal assistant,
Excellent. Might do.
looking at your
It's not on.
let's say looking at your work which you are working on, the personal assistant scheduling, which I can do it right now without LLM. So I didn't find where, no doubt you can do it with the LLM, I am not doing it. Already the interfaces are there, Google Calendar is there, other interfaces, so many things, and systems, so you can, lot of things. What exactly you are trying to bring that LLM model, taking as an example, and how best you follow?
So I mean, I already gave one example that Google Calendar that doesn't do, which is decide the recurring frequency. That feature in itself, it's a small feature, but it could save me some time, and time is money. Like in my opinion, if I'm able to open my phone and say that, hey Elite, remind me to wish Angel Priya happy birthday on 6th July, I wouldn't have to say remind me early.
I got it. What is happening is, let's say the requirement you are trying to feed in some grade, I can do it in a normal schedule, right? I can do in my calendar and I add extra features, like I can do program using whatever the React JS or something without any. Only thing is, where exactly you are including LLM module or a feature into this module which you are developing.
This is where, I mean, I already showed the example of this. Like, I will give you tasks like this, and this is something that I will make manually here, but this will be done by my application. I will, like, this message that is being sent to ChatGPT, it is currently being sent by the browser, and the browser is making some API call over here. This API call will actually be made by my backend.
Same message I can put it into my scheduler directly, right? So,
like, which scheduler are you talking about? Like, are you talking about
using it in Google Calendar itself, or any other calendar can interface it and build an application. So I can do directly there this message into that. So what you are trying to do is you are using one more ChatGPT as a tool to identify your communication message, what the free way you are going to tell that let it interpret in a proper manner and then get it done. That's the only feature I am finding benefit.
And that's
other than that, anything else you have in the future?
There's nothing as of now. But I've been working on this for less than 30 days.
Okay, it's fine. And another thing is maybe.
Sorry, I would like to interrupt. The only reason is that it's more of an idea, and it is his belief, and maybe it is also that he is in the initial phase of it. So it's also that he has to really keep believing his idea and transition that into the real product. So I think that's one important thing, and it is his personal goal. Maybe I'm interfering here, but it is also important that we remain to the schedule. So
one idea was prioritization. Also, you can add it on something like that.
Okay, so We can meet outside, like I will stay after the talk for 30-40 minutes, so we can meet outside and I can answer more of your questions.
Your idea kind of resonates with Google Photo Memories. You don't go and schedule it, but it just shows up.
Yeah.
Right? It
Yeah.
resonates something.
Yeah. And also Google Photos identifying people and automatically tagging them. That's a great ML. That's a great use of ML even before the advent of LLM. Like it's image segmentation and all of that. Again, I don't understand it. I just know that is how it happens. One of the things that I'm trying to bring about with this talk is we don't need to really understand LLM deeply to use it. By extension, we don't need to really understand any software product to use it. Something like a Kafka, I don't like till date I have never seen a single line of code of Postgres, but I have been using Postgres for more than 10 years, right? Projects. So that's the point I'm trying to bring across with this talk.
I wouldn't probably get in the comment, but a question for you. So there's a bunch of thoughts around, but I do remember your talk was originally in a UX space, right? So from a usability perspective and user experience perspective, have you uncovered anything new and exciting which is different from the traditional UX pattern when we talk of LLMs? I use about 8 different tools, paid all of them, there's research assistants, not trying to get into that. I'm trying to understand what usability trends and UX trends do you see coming out which are new and not seen before?
Of course. I mean, of course, we saw one today in the morning with Confluence AI, right?
Okay. Throw away productivity, because productivity is not, is a very difficult parameter to measure by itself. I think if I'm trying to nail the billion-dollar idea, or if the intent is to build something, so let's throw away what has not existed. I don't want to get into what you have already seen. I'm asking you very specifically that what usability trends do you see? For example, when touch-based devices were created, you had this, swipe. That's a new usability thing.
Yes.
And my daughter, who's 4, is born with it. She knows how to do this. So do you see a new usability trend?
Yeah, exactly. Have you looked at Rabbit Armor? How many of us have looked at Rabbit Armor?
Okay, good.
You have, right? The other day I had an idea, and again, I don't execute half of the ideas. I don't execute 99% of the ideas I have because A, I'm lazy, and B, I don't have the time. The other day I had an idea that any person in Bangalore who is booking an Uber, Rapido, Ola is booking them manually, opening their phone, opening 3 apps, and doing a destination, and then after that they are getting 2 cabs and cancelling one. Then the first cab is again getting cancelled. They are booking all 3 again. That is a stupid thing to do, right? It's a thing that should not be done by human beings, right? Yes or no? Does anyone have any disagreement that this should not be done by a human being?
I mean, we can debate that, but that's not the question.
So I will answer your question now.
I actually disagree to that. I mean, there are some decisions and a lot of them that can be done by AI and can be done by human beings.
What decision, like pricing decision, is that what you're answering?
No, let's say the cab example that you're taking, right? Again, I don't want to digress into the discussion, but cab decision, I want to make sure that control I have, so I will want to do it myself.
Okay.
I can obviously have an agent do it, like type in natural language, get me point A to point B, it can figure out the route from Google Map, book an Uber, all of that can happen. That's not a usability.
It is a usability.
Sorry for that, I would like to interrupt. We're running out of short time. We can take this debate offline, please.
It's not a debate, but it's a good discussion.
No, but
The discussion
let's
offline.
I mean, I will just end by saying that I personally would want an application where I can just say book from my house to Devon office and not have to think twice about it. Today morning I spent more than 10 minutes doing this and I did not like it. I was almost late. I was definitely late to the talk because of this whole bullshit, right? It shouldn't happen.
Let's talk after this.
Let's talk. Okay, thank you. Thanks a lot.
Thank you so much.